Welcome to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everybody talking. I'm your host, Justin Mendez, for this special edition of Toastmaster Time. Tonight, we'll be learning all about Toastmasters Youth Leadership Program. Discussing this topic with me is our very own Trich Gray, who is a former Toastmasters Youth Leadership Program coordinator. Welcome to the show, Trish.
Well, thank you for having me to talk about one of my favorite subjects.
My pleasure. Tell us a little bit about what the Youth Leadership Program is.
It's an 8-week program sponsored by a Toastmasters Club to teach middle school, high school students the art of public speaking as well as leadership skills. I've had students as young as 11 years old up to age 17.
Wonderful. And I see you have a Toastmasters manual over there. Tell us a little bit about the manuals.
Toastmasters International supplies you with 2 manuals. One is a student workbook that contains all the reference material and forms that the students need during these 8 sessions. There's also a coordinator guide that tells the coordinator step by step through each of the 8 sessions what material they need to cover. So no problem, step-by-step instructions.
Perfect. You mentioned there's 8 sessions, so 8 educational sessions. Can you tell us about those 8?
Yes, in session number 1, this is Introduction to Chairmanship. There's going to be a demo meeting, the students will do a self-evaluation, and you'll cover the principles of what it needs to chair a meeting or lead a meeting. For the demonstration meeting, bring along some of your Toastmaster friends because you want to model the behavior you want the students to do in the later sessions. Have a Toastmaster present a speech, evaluate that speech, and then do some impromptu talking, what we call table topics. For the chairmanship, you're going to talk about how to create an agenda, how to make sure the meeting flows and starts on time, ends on time, because they're going to have to do that later. You're then going to move to session 2, and that is Introduction to Public Speaking. For the first time, students are going to present some speeches. They're going to go over how to evaluate and what makes up a good speech. For the student speeches, your goal is that they give 3 speeches during the program. Now, we haven't taught them how to evaluate yet, so again, bring your Toastmaster friend, and that Toastmasters will evaluate the students, but you're also going to include an educational session teaching the students how to give a good evaluation, because the purpose is to give feedback so the students improve, while helping to build their self-confidence to motivate them to come back and speak again. You're also going to go over what makes a good speech, how to organize it, how to get the audience to come along with you. You're then going to move to session 3, and that is impromptu speaking. That's the fun one. So the students are speaking, but now they're also evaluating speeches. You're going to give them some guidelines on how to deal with impromptu speeches, and you're going to start talking about group discussions. For the impromptu speaking, make it easier on yourself. When you get a question, don't blurt out an answer. You need to stop, organize your thoughts, think about it a little bit, then speak. Now for the group discussions, you're actually going to have them do an exercise, put them in groups, give them some topics, they discuss it, and then present their findings. Again, more opportunities to speak. That's session 3. Then you're going to go into session 4, and that is organizing your speech. Again, students are speaking and presenting. They're also going to practice impromptu speaking and go over a little bit more detail about how to organize your speech. Now, I recommend they need practice learning how to become a better evaluator. You're evaluating to improve the speakers, but how do the evaluators improve? In a Toastmaster meeting, we use a general evaluator who oversees the evaluators. I recommend the general evaluator be an experienced Toastmaster to give feedback to the evaluators so they can become stronger evaluators. And for the impromptu speaking, the table topics, come up with some fun ideas. This is the part the kids love. You know, bring a bag of really odd, weird stuff. Have them pull out an object and tell you what it is. Who knows what it is? Maybe they don't know what it is. You know, have them come up with their own table topics. Just make it fun. Now, when you get to the speech organization, have an experienced Toastmaster do an educational session about What do we mean by opening body and conclusion? You know, how do you craft an opening that grabs your audience's attention, such as ask a question, ask someone to raise a question, raise their hand if they agree or disagree with you, something to engage the audience. When we talk about the body of the speech, 3 main points. Are you trying to persuade someone to do something? Are you doing an informational talk? So what type of organization would get your point across best? And then your conclusion. Patricia Fripp is a professional speaker. She says, last words linger. Teach your students how to craft that conclusion so that that one main point is in the minds of the audience when you're done. All right, that's session 4, halfway there. You move to session 5, and that is listening. Students are speaking, doing more practicing, but now you're getting some more technical details. You're going to talk about parliamentary procedure and the art of listening. With parliamentary procedure, we don't use it that often, but if you have, for example, a controversial subject, you need to have a way to make sure everyone has an opportunity to have their viewpoints aired. So it's about making motions and seconding motions and discussing them and tabling, all that good stuff. Now, when you have one of your Toastmasters talk about the art of listening, this is a part of an evaluation, but you want to go over good practices and not so good practices, such as when you listen, 100% of your attention should be devoted to the speaker, and don't let because remember, you're evaluating the speech, not necessarily the content. So don't let your perceptions or your filter color what you think about the topic versus the construction of the speech. So learn to separate your emotions from what you know a speech should or should not be in terms of construction. All right, so that's session 4. Yes, that's session 5. So let's go to session 6. That's all about gestures to add meaning to your speeches. You're going to practice that parliamentary procedure. Let the students do the work. Have them pick a controversial topic. Have them pick a chairperson. And have them go through the discussion. They need to learn how to do this. And you're also going to present an educational session about how do you add gestures to your speeches. Because you don't want to just tell someone words. You want to use your entire body, your whole body, your arms, your facial expressions to add meaning. If you're going to give a speech about climbing the ladder of success, show them how to climb a ladder or whatever. Or if you have a speech where you're excited, show excitement in your face. If it's a serious subject, a little more serious. Those can all add meaning to your speech to help the audience, agree or disagree with you. You're then going to move on to session 7, almost done, and that is using voice and vocabulary. When I think of the voice, for example, you can, increase the volume to show excitement or energy or passion, and maybe a nice quiet voice when it's a little bit more somber or serious. You speak more quickly when you're excited, a little bit more slowly I make sure maybe a nice pause, and then make a point. So use your voice to help enhance your message. And if I have 2 words of advice to any speaker, especially new speakers, it's this. Number 1, take a deep breath and slow down. Because when you get nervous, you tend to speak much more quickly. And the problem is all your words run together and nothing stands out as an important point. So learn to take a deep breath and slow down. And the second point is to enunciate your consonants, especially if you're working with an audience where English is not their primary language. You really need to enunciate to help them understand your words. And then you get to the last session, session 8, the final one. Come on, show off your skills, have a big party, have fun. Let the kids show to the parents, their family, their friends, what they've been doing for the past 7 weeks. Invite friends, invite family, maybe make it a banquet, have a speech contest or a table topics contest, something where all the kids get to speak and demonstrate what they've learned. Maybe give awards for the most improved, for the best speaker, just something to make them feel good that they spent the last 7 weeks with you. And that's the 8 weeks.
Wow. Trish, that was a great overview of the Youth Leadership Program, and it sounds like this is a place where young people can go and develop skills that really add value to themselves, their schools, and their communities. And one of the sessions you talked about was learning how to give a good evaluation. To tell us a little bit more about evaluations, we have our very own George Marshall. Let's hear what George has to say. George Marshall, evaluate to motivate, George Marshall.
Toastmasters helps us learn how to communicate better, how to speak effectively. How does it really work? It's simple. It's actually mostly practice, but it's a special kind of practice with feedback. You can practice your talk at home and give it to an empty room. You can give that talk to your dog. You can give that talk to your mirror. And all that practice will help a little bit. It will. Or you can record your show, your speech, on your smartphone, and you can play it back later and you can check yourself out. That helps more. But the real way we get the most improvement is when we get feedback. Because when you look at your own video or watch yourself in the mirror, you're only picking up things that you notice. You wrote the speech, you know what it says. But feedback from someone else can help you understand how your talk was perceived by others. And that can help you learn. Friends, that is the role of the evaluator. To listen to a speech, to come up with some ways to improve it, and to give some feedback to improve and deliver that feedback in a way that motivates the speaker to want to do better. Now, you may be coming up as an evaluator soon. How are you going to do this? Let me give you 3 ideas. First, listen carefully. This is more complicated than you think, because suppose the speaker is really good, you can get lost in the story and forget that you're supposed to be paying attention but taking notes. Here's what you want to do. You want to note down the major points so you can remember what they said. You're going to check off where the speaker said something really good. You really like that part of it. And of course, you're going to also notice some parts that probably need some improvement. Anything is fair game. You might come up with suggestions where you're going to talk about the gestures, the way the speech was worded, speaker's body language, the structure of the talk itself. Perhaps you might notice that an example would help somewhere. But there's one thing you need to avoid. You need to avoid giving opinions about the core message. For example, George, that speech you just gave about diet and nutrition, that would be a terrible diet. I would never do that. Hold it. Your job is not to try to convince the speaker to agree with you. Your job as the evaluator is to help the speaker deliver his message better, not to change his mind. So you can talk about anything, you can talk about how the speech is arranged, but not on what the speaker should be talking about. Second point, you're going to give the evaluation as your own opinion. You're not speaking for anyone else. You're not representing the entire audience. And you don't need to be an expert. In fact, that's a good thing, because you can be a great evaluator. You can give excellent feedback without being an expert by just sharing your reaction. The speaker wants to know how you perceive the talk, what you got out of it, how well you understand it. The speaker needs specific feedback from you. So when you're giving feedback, make it specific, not something general like, I don't think the audience got that part of it. Make it something very specific. For example, George, when you were explaining why we need 5 servings of broccoli a day, I didn't understand that part. I lost track of the reasoning. So you can help a speaker become better by giving them your feedback. It's really that simple. They need to know how you perceive the talk. Third, you want to choose your points carefully. If you're really listening and paying attention, you probably came up with several suggestions that you might give, several things you liked about that talk. But you really want to give just a few. You want to give maybe a couple of suggestions or a couple of points where you compliment them on certain things that did well, it worked. The speaker wants to know after trying it that it really worked. And you want to give them, say, a couple of ideas on ways to improve. Again, always positively worded. This part here, I think could be better, and here's how you could do it. Always be specific. You really don't want to be talking more than a few points. Why? Well, first, the speaker might not be able to keep track of it all. The second is, if you stick to just a few points, you're really letting the speaker know what you consider the most important improvements they could make. One other thing, if you're in a new club or you've got a new member, keeping it to a few points is really important for the newer speakers. If you list all the things you can think of, the ways to improve that talk, you could really discourage that speaker. Now, those are the three main areas. What are some of the common mistakes that people make? First one is giving an evaluation that is too negative or too harsh. If you give an evaluation with very little good points in it, and it's all negative, delivered in a demanding way, you could really demotivate that speaker. They might even decide to quit and give up. Oh, I'm not good enough for this. Every speech has something good about it. Find that something and mention it along with the other things. There's another way to give an evaluation that's not helpful, and that is if it's too positive. Oh, George, your speech was really great. I really liked it. I'm looking forward to your next one. We have a special name for that kind of evaluation. We call it a whitewash. Now, why is that bad? Because the speaker came in and gave that talk in Toastmasters hoping to get a suggestion on how to improve it. If you didn't give them any suggestions, how can they improve? So find something to talk about, even in a very good speech. Here's an idea. If they're really good, maybe you don't have a way that you say you could really improve, but you could offer a suggestion. Why don't you try that first section a different way? Why don't you say this instead of that? So pulling all these points together. The purpose of an evaluation is to provide feedback to the speaker that will help that speaker improve. So we went over the points. The first point is listen carefully. Don't get lost in the story. Take notes so that you can give your own impressions. The second one is, remember, you don't have to be an expert. You are giving your opinion, your honest opinion, delivered in a helpful, useful way. You want to let the speaker know what you liked, what parts worked well as suggestions for improvements. As an evaluator, you can truly make a difference for one of the members of your club by giving them helpful feedback that you deliver to them in a way that motivates them to want to go improve, to tackle that next project. It's a fantastic feeling. So always evaluate to motivate. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you for that great insight into evaluations, George. Tonight's show has been wonderful, and I can't wait to hear from our next guest. But before we do, we need to take a short break. You're watching Toastmaster Time, and we'll be right back.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease...
Freedom requires leadership, and leadership requires oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.
Welcome back to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everybody talking. I'm Justin Mendez, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you our next speaker, Trisha Agrawal, who's also a Youth Leadership Program graduate. The title of Trisha's speech is Parental Advisory Explicit Content. Trisha Agrawal, Parental Advisory Explicit Content, Parental Advisory Explicit Content, Trisha Agrawal.
Most likely I'ma die for my I've been grinding outside all day with my
Did you guys recognize that song? It was a music sensation earlier this year, popular across the world on YouTube and Vines. With the edited title My Hitta, YG's song, featuring Jeezy and Rich Homie Quan, sold over 1.2 million copies in the United States alone and made the top 20 on Billboard. But it contains 153 expletives. 153 instances of the N-word, F-word, and other instances of profanity. What I just played is a portion of the clean version, with at least one edit in every line. The song sounds absolutely ridiculous. Gone are the days when people listen to the classical melodious tunes of Mozart and Beethoven, or even country music. Today's teens prefer hip-hop, fast, loud, and upbeat music. Jay-Z, Kanye West, Tyga, 2 Chainz, Wiz Khalifa, we've all heard of them. Forbes estimates that on average, teens listen to about 2.4 hours of music on a daily basis. Sure, listening to music can be the perfect way to relax after a tough day at school or after completing that stressful project. The problem, however, is not listening to music itself, which can have vastly beneficial effects such as calming our minds down and relaxing our bodies. It's what music we listen to and what it contains. But have we truly ever evaluated the content of our music? Have we ever stopped and wondered why our music contains so much swearing and profanity? When I asked my own friend Christina why she liked hip-hop music so much, she said, "There's so much stress in my life with SATs, APs, junior year, and everything else. Hip-hop is so lively and upbeat that it allows me to feel alive for some time again." According to ABC News, 45 million listeners of hip-hop are above the age of 12. It's fair to say that many of us nowadays love hip-hop. After all, that's all we hear at parties, school dances, and on TV. But today, I'm going to ask all of you, why? Why does the music have to contain so much swearing and profanity? What does it add to our music? Does it make us feel any more lively and upbeat? According to urban rap statistics, a hip-hop album on average contains about 218 instances of profanity. Expletives are the norm for modern music. What's even more concerning is that teens listen to 1,500 expletives on a daily basis through their music. When I asked my friend Christina those same questions, she looked at me with a very blank expression. She paused, tilted her head to the left, as she always does when she's deep in thought, and said after a minute, "You know what, Trisha? I've never really thought about that. I guess you're right. It doesn't really add anything. But I just ignore the words and don't let them affect me as a person." Although I nodded and laughed when she told me that, I wondered whether it was possible for us to hear profanity being used over and over again and still not let that impact our brain subconsciously. Well, according to a study conducted by the official journal of the American Academy of Pediatrics, quote, "There's a positive correlation between exposure to profanity and beliefs regarding profanity, profanity use, behavior regarding profanity, and engagement in physical and relational aggression." So, while we might like to think that our music does not affect us, it truly has the potential to alter us as individuals for the worse. The media often claims that our music is censored well enough, with parental advisory explicit content signs on hip-hop albums and song edits on the radio. But honestly, who can access all this stuff on YouTube? In our digital age, we can find basically every song on the internet, along with the song lyrics and music videos, often reflecting a very materialistic approach towards life, encouraging alcohol and drugs, degrading women, and idolizing money. So what's truly needed here is a reevaluation of music by each and every individual in society. Although it may take years to alter the way profanity is used in music, maybe it's our responsibility to choose the right music for ourselves. So next time you hear Tyga say, "Rack City, rack, rack city," or Juicy J say, "Bands that make her dance," maybe we should just turn the radio off. We're all better off without it. Mr. Toastmaster?
Trisha, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your experience in the Youth Leadership Program. When did you join and why?
I first joined the Youth Leadership Program in my freshman year, the summer before my freshman year. I remember it was a Saturday morning. I was excited because we had holidays, and my mom woke me up. She shook me awake. "Trisha, get up. You have a Toastmasters program to go to." And I was confused. I was like, "Mom, Toastmasters on a Saturday? What is this? Can I sleep in?" I thought it was a culinary program of some sort, learning how to make toast. But when I went there, when I saw the opening ceremony and I met all the fellow Toastmasters, I was pleasantly surprised. I realized that this truly is a program that I can grow from.
Great. And you said that was on a Saturday. How many Saturdays ago was that? How long have you been involved in the Youth Leadership Program?
That was about 4 years ago.
Wow.
That was before my freshman year, the summer before my freshman year. And
Great.
I was a nervous little kid. And looking back on it, I realized how much I've truly grown from that experience.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad that it was a great experience. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
That's our show for tonight. We film our show in the San Francisco Bay Area. If you'd like to learn more about Toastmaster Time, you can visit toastmastertime.com. Toastmaster Time is sponsored by Toastmasters District 57. If you'd like to learn more about District 57, you can visit d57tm.org. To learn more about Toastmasters International, the Toastmasters Youth Leadership Program, or to find a Toastmaster club near you, you can visit toastmasters.org. We are extremely grateful and appreciative for our staff and crew of volunteers here at the Media Center in Palo Alto. I'm Justin Mendez, inviting you to join Toastmasters and keep talking.